After about 3 weeks zigzagging round the far side of the world, we finally landed in Sydney. We're here for a week before joining Arcadia for the long voyage home. This is the spectacular view from our room at the Shangri-La Hotel. A very well appointed room, but we did think that taking into account the price, the Shangri-La was now trading somewhat on its former glories. The Shangri-La is very handy for the Rocks area of Sydney with its famous market. These are lorikeets, which are very tame now. The overseas passenger terminal right under Sydney Harbour Bridge. This is where Arcadia will be going from in a few days. Oriana's in at the moment. Traditional musicians on Circular Quay. Of course, one of the most recognisable and we think beautiful buildings in the world, the Sydney Opera House. It frames Circular Quay with Sydney's other great icon, the Harbour Bridge, and people braver, or more stupid than we are, can climb this bridge and walk along on the very top. Building work on Jørn Utsen's futuristic and almost impractical design for the Opera House began in 1959. It rises from a podium which provides a huge public area for walking, sightseeing, cafes and so on. The smaller main shell contains the opera theatre and the larger one, the concert hall. The third shell contains the restaurant, Guillaume at Bennelong, and this is where we had our pre-theatre dinner. By the time the Opera House was opened in 1974, Jørn Utsen had acrimoniously departed from the project. But the exteriors are exactly as he designed them. This is the old Custom House, now filled with bars and the like, and this is Herald Square. The General Post Office. The elegant late Victorian Strand Arcade. The Sydney Tower has an observation deck 250 metres above the ground. There's the bridge, and peeping out between the tall buildings, the shells of the Opera House roof. Woolloomooloo Wharf and Garden Island Naval Base. The Anzac Memorial at the end of Hyde Park. Pyrmont Bridge and Darling Harbour. Back at ground level now, and Victoria Arcade, with a very elaborate clock. The foyer of the Art Deco State Theatre. The Royal Botanic Gardens start by the Opera House and cover a huge area adjacent to the central business district. That's the Sydney Tropical Centre. The gardens are home to a large colony of grey-headed flying foxes, the largest bats in Australia. The Art Gallery of New South Wales. The New South Wales Parliament House is the oldest public building in Sydney. And St James's Church is the oldest church in Sydney, in Australia in fact. Hyde Park Barracks.
Hello, Anthony.
St Mary's Catholic Cathedral, the largest church in Australia. Hyde Park. We're off to Darling Harbour via Paddy's Market. Tumbalong Park with the skyscrapers of the central business district behind. Cockle Bay Wharf. Princess Cruises in Darling Harbour. Pedestrians share Pyrmont Bridge with the monorail. And we take the monorail back to the city centre. Our day trip to the Blue Mountains begins with a stop at Featherdale Wildlife Park. A wombat. Kookaburra. Cassowary. And finally, a dingo. The village of Leura is the gateway to the Blue Mountains, and we stopped for lunch. By the time we got to our viewing point, the weather had really closed in. This is Echo Point, and this is what you're supposed to be able to see on a good day. Our trip back to Sydney took us via the 2000 Olympic Village. Each of these poles represents a volunteer at the 2000 Olympics. On the Sydney Harbour ferry to Manly. have to pass over the Sydney Heads, where the water can get quite choppy. Manly is best known for its wonderful beach, which is also apparently very good for surfing. On the way back, we pass by Garden Island Naval Base, where Robin had already got us a private tour through her friend, Lieutenant Commander Brian Ferry. And here we are, back on Circular Quay. This is the view from Sydney Zoo. Deborah is a volunteer at the zoo and got us a wonderful free visit. The Tasmanian devil is threatened with extinction by a virulent transmissible cancer. Sydney Zoo has a captive breeding program to try to save the species, and these young Tasmanian devils are learning the skills they'll need if ever they are released into the wild. This is a kookaburra. Koalas seem to spend most of their time asleep. Despite Deborah's expert explanations, I still can't tell the difference between wallabies and kangaroos. The zoo has animals from all over the world, not just from Australia. The zoo's Asian elephants were brought from Thailand with the full support of the Thai government. The Queen Victoria about to vacate her berth so that Arcadia can come alongside. And here she is with her escort of fireboats and sailboats. It causes quite a lot of disruption to the Sydney Harbour ferry system if a cruise ship enters or leaves the harbour during their normal operating hours. Every vantage point packed for what must be one of the best sail-ins in the world. Commodore Steve Burgoyne at the controls, parking the ship. And there are Peter and Alan, about to finish their cruise, just as we're about to begin ours.